fresh polls crunch fuels Tory nerves as Theresa May pleads with voters to have faith in her despite backlash over skipping BBC election debate. Theresa May was struggling to soothe Tory nerves over the election today amid a backlash over skipping a TV election debate. The Prime Minister appealed for voters to have faith in her as more polls showed Labour gaining ground with just a week to go until the vote. One showed the Conservatives' national advantage down to just 3 points, not enough for an overall majority. Another put Mrs May's ratings in London below those of Jeremy Corbyn for the first time. Speaking in the North East, the Premier tried to stop the rot by arguing that only she was able to conduct crucial Brexit negotiations. She pledged to fight to earn every vote and questioned Mr Corbyn's patriotism, saying he did not believe in Britain. "People can have faith in me because I have faith in them," Mrs May said. "You can only deliver Brexit if you believe in Brexit. You can only fight for Britain if you believe in Britain. You can only deliver for Britain if you have the strength, the plan and the determination to see it through. And what we know in this election is that the only other person that can be Prime Minister in 7 days' time is simply not up to the job. He doesn't believe in Britain. He doesn't have a plan. He doesn't have what it takes." Political opponents leapt on Mrs May's decision to swerve the BBC debate last night, claiming that the Premier was complacent and taking the public for granted. But Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson insisted the PM was right to sit it out and sent Home Secretary Amber Rudd in her place, dismissing the seven-way event as a great yammering cacophony that elucidated nothing. Tory nerves over the increasingly tight race have been further frayed by a poll showing the party is just 3 points ahead of Labour, not enough for an overall majority. Jeremy Corbyn tried to turn the screw on Mrs May last night by making an 11th-hour decision to turn up for the BBC debate. However, he did not emerge unscathed, with Ms Rudd lashing the veteran left-winger over his refusal to promise lower immigration if he upsets the odds to win next week. She also slammed Mr Corbyn's chilling boast he had opposed anti-terror laws for 30 years. Earlier, Mr Corbyn repeatedly refused to promise immigration would be lower if he wins power. The Labour leader faced a series of demands from Home Secretary Amber Rudd to say if new arrivals to Britain would fall as he outlined his policies. Mr Corbyn ignored her shouts as he set out a fare system that prioritised the needs of the economy and recruitment into public services over cutting numbers. He insisted, "Fair is where you bring people in when they have got jobs to come to or it is necessary for them to be working here or we need them to assist in the economy. That is fair." Mr Farron accused the Conservatives of running an immigration policy to appease UKIP, and drew applause when he highlighted the case of an Asian doctor who was spat at and abused as he returned home after treating the injured in the Manchester bomb attack. "That is what happens if you demonize immigrants," he said. "Do we need, as I'm afraid the Prime Minister has done for the last 7 years, to set completely barmy, bogus targets that she fails to meet every year? No we don't." Mr Nuttall said current levels were unsustainable and that UKIP would take action to bring the numbers coming into the country under control. "We would do it by having an Australian-style point system so that if you've got the skills this country needs, yes, please come here and work, but beyond that we have to get the population under control," he said. UKIP leader Paul Nuttall was accused of using hate-filled rhetoric and lying after he demanded an immediate halt to new arrivals. As the debate began, Ms Rudd insisted the other parties would offer bluster and shiny promises but offer few answers on Brexit. Mr Corbyn insisted he would transform Britain for the many not the few. Ahead of the debate, Mr Corbyn today refused to rule out doing a deal with SNP leader Nicola Sturgeon to become PM if there is no clear winner in the election. Pressed on whether he would forge an alliance with the SNP and the Lib Dems to win the keys to Downing Street, the Labour leader said, "You'd better ask me that on June 9th. The comments will fuel fears that failure by Theresa May to secure outright victory next week could open the door to a coalition of chaos. Mr Corbyn has already said that in no time he would open discussions with Ms Sturgeon about her demand for a fresh independence referendum. Announcing his decision, Mr Corbyn said, "I will be taking part in tonight's debate because I believe we must give people the chance to hear and engage with the leaders of the main parties before they vote. I have never been afraid of a debate in my life. Labour's campaign has been about taking our policies to people across the country and listening to the concerns of voters. The Tories have been conducting a stage-managed arm's-length campaign and have treated the public with contempt. Refusing to join me in Cambridge tonight would be another sign of Theresa May's weakness, not strength." The Prime Minister refused to take part in head-to-head debates with any other party leaders during the campaign for the June 8 election. The Labour leader and the PM both appeared on a Channel 4, Sky debate last Friday, but they were interviewed separately and never appeared on stage together. Mr Corbyn's decision comes after he used a campaign even in central London to challenge the PM to debate him head-to-head on TV. The Labour leader said it was ridiculous that the PM is refusing to debate him directly on the same stage. He said, "How ridiculous is that?" The events will go ahead with Shadow Education Secretary Angela Rayner and Shadow Health Secretary John Ashworth filling in, a Labour source said. The PM and Mr Corbyn both boycotted the first televised leaders' election debate of the campaign, held on ITV earlier this month. The show was widely mocked and branded a borefest by viewers, who pointed out that no one taking part stood a chance of leading a government after June 8. It was most notable for UKIP leader Paul Nuttall repeatedly calling Plaid leader Leanne Wood Natalie. Conservative Party Chairman Patrick McCullough said, "Jeremy Corbyn has made clear that he will do a deal in order to get the keys to Downing Street." Corbyn, propped up by the Lib Dems and the SNP in a coalition of chaos, would be a disaster for Britain and would mean a bad Brexit deal, higher taxes, more borrowing and weaker defences. If you don't think Jeremy Corbyn is fit to be Prime Minister, if you don't think he's up to negotiating Brexit, if you oppose a second referendum, vote for Theresa May and her Conservative team.